And joining me now to from the United Kingdom for a look into this controversy is a global affairs analyst, Benga Nifade. Good to have you join us.
Good afternoon.
So we know that immigration in the UK particularly has always been an election issue. But why are we seeing so much pressure now, especially from Parliament?
Well, I mean, it's a bit difficult because if you look at the Conservatives right now, it's, everything is literally pointing to them losing the next election. So one of the things, and it's always been the case, the story's always been, the script's always been rewritten. They tend to write the scripts, and it's always bringing up about inflation. So it's more of a political issue than the real immigration issue, because overall out there, does the country need immigration at the moment? Yes. And then most of the people that are coming in, yes, they're quite skilled. And what are they doing? They are coming in to fill the positions that has been taken. Because if you look at since the post-lockdown, since the lockdown, there has been what they call the post-lockdown shortage with businesses and care workers and IT and nurses and software workers as well, developers. They all been coming into the UK, not just the nurses, even though the nurses dominated the visa routes. Also, you got to look at the chefs, the accountants, management consultants. They also equally dominate, and of course, the agricultural sector are calling. Likewise, the bakers. So all these areas are lacking people, even the clergymen. So, however, again, because of course the EU left, or since UK left the EU, most of them went back to their country, and of course, I think the data has actually been a little bit warped because we do have people from the Ukraine and of course on the Hong Kong who were on a special visa route just to come into the UK. So it's not just the students really. Even though immigration from the students has jumped, I think by about over 750% between 2020 and 2021, and at the same time, that's about 700,000 people extra. But this is not just a Conservative issue. For the past 13 years, it's always been going on more than a double-digit percentage.
And we've seen, prime ministers from Cameron to Theresa May to Boris Johnson all making several promises but never going through with them. But Prime Minister Sunak is now being asked to either turn off the tap or at least tighten it. Will he bow to pressure, and what measures are we likely to see coming from number 10?
Yeah, I mean, part of his five plan was, number one, to slash immigration. I mean, in terms of immigration, to slash immigration, of course, stop the boats. Again, when it comes to stopping the boats, that's actually been done, and that's gone to the House of the Lords now, where they can vote on it. That probably will pass. But when it comes to the students, I think there's a new bill out there which will restrict immigration, in terms of people bringing in their dependents to the UK. That will be, I think, from January next year. It will reduce it, but ultimately, I mean, if you look back many years ago when Theresa May did stop people bringing in their dependents, people started looking elsewhere. They started looking at the USA, looking at Australia, because UK has always been one of the biggest, competitors in terms of where they can come. But unfortunately, you've got to see immigration is as well as a business relationship building for the country as much as it is for the foreigners coming into the country. So it doesn't just benefit the country, the foreigners, it benefits both ways. And unfortunately, UK is benefiting from it. So can it turn it off? It can reduce it. But at the end of the day, when it reduces it, you will get the business leaders screaming and counting up.
Absolutely. And I want to stay on this point. Sorry to butt in, because you raised a very critical issue. And I just want to mention that, look, because Nigerians always feel attacked when these issues come up. India has the highest number of immigrants at the moment in the UK, and then Nigeria, then Zimbabwe. But, you were talking about, issues around that mutual relationship where, immigrants are also filling up shortages in some sectors, especially in care homes. So how do you then strike that balance in a way that, because I've listened to some people who are entrepreneurs in the UK saying, look, people who work in their businesses are mostly immigrants. So how do you then strike that balance?
It's very difficult to square the circle, really, because I mean, if you look at the care work, for example, that most of them do, if you've got to have a strong heart to be able to do it, and the people, citizens of the country would not do it. So it's just, and it's not extremely well paid. It's very long hours. So you actually do need people from abroad, number one. So yeah, and you're right. It's mostly Indians. And in fact, actually, it's Philippines came second. the Nigerians. But guess what? America is actually the fourth filling this immigration circle. So it's not just, we just get to call, we tend to get that call out. But again, how do you strike that balance? Again, it's not free. That's another thing people need to understand. And, a lot of them come back here. You are paying taxes. So it's very difficult. And especially if you look at the student routes as well, many people are coming in as students. I would think it's quite unfortunate if you're going to come in after spending all that money and then you're going to have to go back to your country where there's not much hope. You've got the skills and the country is giving you the skill. So either way, it works for both sides. You will be able to contribute in form of taxes. You can't even benefit the NHS in terms of health because you are giving some money to be able to get access to NHS. So in a way, it's a mutually benefiting situation. But most of the time, when it comes to election issues, it's the right that are, they tend to stand on the podium and they tend to scream. But it's always been mutually benefiting. And if you look at the report from the Office of National Statistics, the country is actually getting way more than immigrants are contributing.
A controversial issue indeed. We will see how the UK government will respond to this. Thank you so much for talking to us as always. Public Affairs, Global Affairs Analyst, Benga Onifade.